that, and which we already going to cover anyway. We talked about, I think, something about like the business model. Maybe, what would an LLC, as well, what is an LLC versus a sole proprietorship, and what's the
Mhm.
benefits or the pros and cons. I think Jack has a little bit of a knowledge that to share.
Mary, I've actually got to step out here for a moment. Could I jump back on in here in
Oh,
about
sure,
five
sure. Okay,
minutes?
then
Okay.
this is where me and Maria is gonna pick up then. Okay. Okay, so the LLC versus sole proprietorship. The only reason why I want to talk about it is because I have somebody question me, actually, that the person was asking me, hey, how do I pay myself? And then so I'm like, I received the call, and I was like, what do you mean? How are you going to pay yourself as a business owner? And then he said, well, how am I going to pay myself and also my um, friend? I wouldn't say friend. Actually, it's a girlfriend who works with me. How am I going to pay her?
Mm-hmm.
Compensate her. And I'm like, first thing I have to identify is how is his business set up? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, are you a sole proprietorship or are you an LLC? And he said a sole proprietorship. So I had to explain the difference between an LLC and a sole proprietorship, and in compensation. And I noticed that the more I went into it, the more he's like, because he's like getting all this information from me, the more he's like, whew, that was a lot to digest.
Yes.
I said, well, then you know what? I only have 10 minutes because he was training, right? So it's not like I can sit there for an hour and explain it to him. So I figured I'll cover it in this episode. So that way, for any listeners out there who doesn't know the difference between a sole proprietorship and an LLC, I will go ahead and cover it. Now, folks, this is from my experience and from what I know dealing with LLC attorney, you know, um, and yes, when you're gonna LLC your business, you have to hire an attorney, because if you don't, when you do your filing as far as paperwork, you want to make sure that it's done right. Because if it's not done right, I would hate for you to find out 5 years, 10 years from the time that you filed it, and you are in the predicament that you're getting sued, that you are not protected. You know what I mean? Or your business is not protected. So I don't want you, or I don't want anyone out there to be in that predicament. So that's why it's always better to play it safe and hire an expert that will do what it is that you want them to do. So in this case, the difference between sole proprietorship and an LLC is that if you are just starting, yes, you can start as a sole proprietorship until maybe, because that's how we started, until we have the funds, because when we're a small business owner and we're just starting, we don't have the financial resources yet, right? Or we don't have a lot of resources compared to big companies that have all this stuff already, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So the way we did it is like a step process. I had it all figured out already. So we started as sole proprietorship, and then from there, I knew I wanted to protect our business, that in case we get sued or we're in a lawsuit, that our assets are protected. Because folks, when you are in the lawsuit, don't quote me on this, but this is what I know, that attorneys would not only go after your business assets, they will also go after your personal assets. Isn't that right, Maria?
I think so. But John, well, I don't know a lot about this, to be honest with you,
Okay.
but John would say if you don't have liability insurance,
Uh-huh.
you're you're setting yourself up for troubles. So don't think that you're completely protected just because you're an LLC,
Mm-hmm.
because you still need liability insurance. That's so important. He says,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stress enough, you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's almost like a mandatory, or like it's a must when you
yes,
own a business to have some kind of insurance
yes,
to also protect you, you
yes,
know?
yes.
Yeah. So from my understanding is that when there's a lawsuit, the attorneys usually go after everything you have if
Mhm.
you're getting sued. You know what I mean? Whether that's business assets or personal assets, So that's why you want to separate those two. What you own for yourself, you want to separate from your business. That's why you're doing the LLC, because it's a different, it's a separate entity. So you can either, I'm going to slow and go an extra step here to explain stuff. So there's an LLC and there's a incorporation. So some companies, like maybe the Fortune 500s, they have filed like corporations, like incorporated. So that's why if you see some of their names, sometimes it would say a C. So that means it's a corporation. Just because they are big companies that have probably shareholders, and investors, under their umbrella. So for us small business owners, LLC is really I think, for my opinion, is the best way to go, right? And the reason being is because when you do an LLC, in reality, the way the attorney explained it to me is that when you have your sales revenue minus your expenses, and then your bottom number is your profit, where in an LLC, the business is not supposed to really make any profit. That's what my attorney explained to me, because that bottom number actually, sorry, that was my phone. Because in reality is the bottom number becomes your distribution in an LLC setup. So the way it works with an LLC is that your sales revenue minus your expenses. So if you're paying yourself like a W-2, like a payroll, if let's say I'm a business owner and I'm an LLC, I have to be on a payroll, have to file W-2, that's a must, as well as the distribution. So whatever the bottom number is supposed to split like 50-50. That's what our government's looking for.
Mhm.
So anyway, so what happens is that whatever that bottom number is becomes your distribution, and it kind of flow into your personal income tax when you file your personal income tax return. So the difference between the LLC and the corporation is that it's more complicated, and also I don't want to get into it because by 2003, 2004, I already LLC the business.
Mhm.
That's how
Well,
quick I am.
yes.
Huh?
Yes, that's 2003, I guess, is when that really took off and a lot of LLCs came about. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, why do you want to LLC it and not stay as a sole proprietorship, right? Well, because of lawsuits, if somehow, for those mobile dent guy, let's say they're doing some mobile work on a customer's house, and let's say the customer came out and tripped on one of the tools that's laying around there, and they got hurt, and they decide to sue that dent guy or that dent company. Well, you are really exposed and you're not protected. You know what I mean? And it goes from your business assets to your personal assets, because that's what attorneys usually do. They go after you for everything you have.
Hmm. Yeah, yes,
You know what I mean? I mean, I didn't want to sound like that, but that's what it is.
right. That is, that is.
Yeah. So, are you going to say something?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
keep going. You're doing
Okay.
great.
Okay. So, anyways, the question that he had for me was, how does he pay himself? So I told him, if you're a sole proprietorship, yes, you can just pay yourself directly, but it's advisable to LLC your business so you can be protected from. And then, like what you said, Maria, as a reminder, you still need to have some kind of insurance, right, for
Hmm.
your business. So if you do get sued, then your insurance will kick in for those lawsuits, because who knows, you can be getting sued for $1 million or $2 million. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
for medical expenses, those can get really, really high. So that's why you have to do the right thing the first time you set up your business. And then, so sole proprietorships, he can just compensate himself directly. And then I advise him that Eventually, as you get bigger, you wanna LLC your business. So, for business owners that have LLC, the way they will compensate themselves, usually the government want 50-50, 50% your payroll and 50% your distribution, because if they see that you're paying more on distribution, that would be a red flag for them to say, hey, wait a minute, let's audit this company. You don't want to get audited. I'm just telling you that now, because once you get audited for, let's say, that particular year that they want to see your books, they can check also your records from the previous years. They can go 5 years back, and they're going to nitpick everything. And then the next thing you know, you have all these fees and penalties. And can you imagine if you didn't do your books the right way too? You're kind of like, I
Mhm.
guess, again, I'm going to say a bad word, screwed.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So anyway, so I explained that to him. And thanks for coming back, Jack. I'm almost to the
Yep.
end of my explanations between sole proprietorship and LLC. You know
I
what
know
I
I
mean?
was bummed
Because
I had to step out. I was like, dang
no,
it.
no problem, no problem. And what I told Maria, because you weren't here, that the
Mhm.
reason why this conversation came up is because somebody asked me how he's going to compensate himself once he starts his business. So the first thing I need to identify was, how did he set up his business? You know, the business model. Is he an
Yep.
LLC or a sole proprietorship? And I found out that he was a sole proprietorship. So I was telling the listeners and also Maria that in the beginning, if you're starting your business, it's okay to start as a sole proprietorship. But as you get bigger and you have more financial resources, because you do have to hire an attorney to just get it done the right way the first time, um, to hire an attorney to do your LLC filings. You know what I mean? And I don't know
Mhm.
if you want to share anything about the LLC, because I know you said you're an LLC too, isn't it?
Yeah, I set my business up right away as a LLC filing as an S corp. I'm paid a salary from my company, same amount every month.
Hmm.
At the end of the year, I can give myself a bonus. I've got 401k with company match. The company pays for my health insurance, dental and vision,
Hmm.
and car insurance, pays for all my gas in the company truck, or truck that I use for company.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Good for you,
That's,
Jack.
it's a
yep.
very good idea.
Yes. Do you have liability insurance on top of that?
Like business liability insurance, garage keepers.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess all that. Is there something more than that? You mean?
I
No,
think
I
that's
was
what you
just
meant.
making sure because when I was talking to John about this last night, he was like, don't think that you're bulletproof because you're an LLC, because
No.
attorneys will go after everything, as Mary was saying. And so even though, you've got the attorney, they'll go after you. So get the insurance and make sure that you're provided for in that way also. So it looks like you're doing, and I like that you brought up S corp because that's, you can save, it's good for tax purposes.
Oh yeah, pass through entity. Another thing I know that when I started my business was I already had separate accounts, but in no way do try to do almost no paying yourself back, because it's basically considered piercing the corporate veil, which is a whole other discussion on when you start making purchases for your. I don't know how to even explain it properly, but basically keep all your business expenses 100% business oriented and
And
personal
that's,
completely
yes,
separated.
that's hard to do. I want to buy something for A1, and John's like, did you use the card? And I'm like, I, so then he has to go through all that to pay me back and all that. And I'm like, I just didn't think it seemed like such a little thing. I was just getting
Yep.
pizzas for the guys. It's so and so's birthday, and he's like,
Hmm.
you have to. And I just don't think that way. But he's like, it is a big deal, and I've gotten into trouble for that. So yeah,
Yeah, because apparently what I've been told is if you get sued, your company, and there's records of that, then it's able to be tied back to you. So the purpose of an LLC is to remove liability from myself. If you don't separate your banking, that can create a bond between you and your LLC to where then they can now sue you as a
Mhm.
person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So don't
Mm-hmm.
tell I bought pizzas and then he had to pay me. Don't tell. Um, but no, but yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big
Uh-huh.
deal. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned something about John telling you. Well, I say the same thing to Mike. I said, "Did you use this for the business or this one for your personal stuff?" He said, "I get confused. Which card should I use?" That's why when he goes to Ultra, I told him just have them call me and I'm gonna give them the proper cards for this,
Mhm.
for whatever it is that he's doing. So that
Yeah.
way it eliminates for me. I mean, it eliminates an extra step for me to fix it in the books. Because
Yeah.
if it shows up on my bank account when I reconcile my bank statement with my QuickBooks, it has to match. So like
Hmm.
what you said, Maria, if you purchase something and then you kind of commingle that, you have to undo it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to put
Yeah.
it back. Yeah, you can borrow from your business, but then you have to put it back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that I hate doing the books, but I have to. I have to be organized as far as that, because of audit. I have friends that have been audited, and that's another thing too. I did an episode about, if you ever get audited, hire an attorney. I mean, I know people are probably saying, Mary, what is wrong with you? You are the person that's just like, hire an attorney. Not everyone have the financial resources, but the way I'm looking at it, I'm trying to minimize my uh I'm trying to minimize the damage, right? Because if I don't and I try to handle it, myself, and I somehow mess up, it might cost me more money in the long run, correct? So I usually
Hmm.
hire the experts to, do this kind of stuff for me rather than me trying to do it, you know. Okay. Anyways, do you guys have something to share that you want to bring on this episode? I know I have some like kind of a list here, such as choices and decisions that we make in life. I mean, they go hand in hand. Any thoughts?
Hmm.
Well, I
You want me
like,
to start? Or you?
yeah, well, I was going to say, when I asked Jack about how does he handle the adjusters, do you come at them aggressively, like this is what I'm worth, or do you try to get on their side? I I think it serves everyone well, best, I should use, to come with people with understanding. And I see where you're coming from and, trying to work with them. I think that's a good rule of thumb. And I think it's good that you did that, Jack, and it worked well for you there. But
Yeah, and read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People. Um, the books that showed a little bit earlier. So like, there's literally books on working with insurance companies. So delay, deny, defend. The good from good hands to boxing gloves, the dark side of insurance. So I mean, these are literally books written of how to work with insurance companies. Well,
Oh,
to I don't even like to use the term battle, but essentially that's what it is.
yeah,
battle like this. Well, today I learned something. I didn't know that you can request for another claim adjuster if you're not getting along
yeah,
with the one that you are assigned with.
Yep.
So is that something you learn from reading that books, or
No,
is
that
that
was
something
something I
you learned
learned
in life?
from hail damage, techs and stuff, guys that travel around or shops that deal with a lot of insurance work. That was something I learned from them. I don't remember exactly who specifically, but it's just I guess it was just a thing. And I've talked with body. I used to work in a body shop prior to doing paintless dent repair. We had never had that kind of pushback that I recall, anyways. But certain shops that I now work with have, where they've basically kicked an adjuster out of the shop, which seems a little extreme to me, but hey, it is what it is. So, not my deal. So,
wow,
Wow.
that's neat.
I
That's good to know.
Yeah, it's like kick someone out of the shop. Wow. That's a big thing.
well,
But
unfortunately, a lot of adjusters, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of them have a big ego. And I know we've got one locally around here that I swear he just loves to fight. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, and I've talked with a body shop with this guy on it, and they've said the same exact thing. And I'm like, I think this guy just really likes to argue. whatever. I mean, it's kind of his job essentially. I don't really like to. That's not really, I guess, true, but I think he
Uh-huh.
really likes doing that. So whatever.
He likes to be confrontational, but then how do
Oh,
you actually, I mean, that's like an opposite of what I'm thinking. You want to be on their good side so that way you will have this relationship. It's almost like I think you and I, Maria, have talked about building relationship with people, whether it's your friends, your family, your kids, or even the people that you work with. So that way things will be easier, right? And they can trust you. So the end goal here is to have that trust with one another. So if you're in a business kind of relationship, then you guys can like work together and in solving a problem, right? So but if you create an enemy that you're supposed to be getting a, I don't know, like money from, or getting something approved from like a company, and if you're being hostile, how are you gonna like convince them to be on your side or on your team? I mean, that's kind of like, to me, I think I'm looking at ego. Don't you think, Jack? Like, this
yeah.
is what I'm saying, the decisions we make and the choices we make, my approach will be different. You know what I mean?
It's yeah. I mean, you'd have to be able to read the person. Obviously, this is something that's better done in person, not over the phone, like so many of the visual or virtual adjusters are now. Everybody's on the phone, so you can't read any type of body language. You can't read their anything at all, their face, nothing. So it makes it very difficult to interact with them, and the insurance companies know this. That's why they're going that route. I mean, on top of the pandemic that we had last year and stuff like that. I quite frankly, I don't think we're going to see adjusters out in the field for a long, long time, if not ever again. It wouldn't surprise me. Maybe like big cat teams and stuff like that for hail damage, but little shops like mine where they're coming, every once in a while here, there, whatever. I don't think it's going to be a thing anymore. So,
Everything is like what? Just send the photos and virtual stuff? Because
yep.
that's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened with me. Like,
Hmm.
they said, "Oh, click this link," and then we connected that way, and then I showed my car that way. When I,
Well, I've talked with adjusters and asked them about that, and they're like, man, like even the ones that were like, I know the one guy, he was like, I was like, man, so how you liking working from home? He's like, dude, I hate it. I want to get out. I want to interact with people. I want to go see shops. I want to be out, but that's just their company policy now to where he's like, I just sit at home. He's like, I still go on the weekend and go golfing. I still travel. I do all my regular stuff, but company policy is not to leave
Mhm.
the house. And I said, have you ever not? Have you ever had to leave? And he's like, very, very, very rare situations. But typically, if they do that, the
Mhm.
insurance company will hire a subcontracted company, a third party adjuster, to handle that for
Mhm.
whatever reasons. So,
Mhm. I mean, I can imagine that being hard now, Jack, because if you think about it, let's say the way I'm looking at it, let's say I'm a claim adjuster and I'm trying to uh, estimate this or quote this damage the right way, right? And you are dealing with customers who's holding a camera and they don't know how to take pictures or they don't know which angle they need to go, and you're trying to explain it to them. It's almost like human talking to an alien, right? So it will be frustrating on my end because I'll be like, no, because I have to deal with that with my customers. I said, send me, that's why I always say, send me 2 or 3 photos. And please, I go an extra step. I tell them how to do it because once I get or receive the picture, sometimes they're either too close, I can't see what panel I'm looking at, or whether even if it's a bumper or a door or a quarter panel. So or either that they'll take a picture that's so close like this, it's like one dimension, I can't see the dent, especially if it's a small ding. So I tell them you got to go in an angle, you know what I mean? And then they say, oh no, the light hits it, I have, it's like you can't really see it. I said, you know what, I am always like teaching them to solve the problem. I said, they said it's so small you can't see it. I said, you know what, then guess what, hold your phone this way, point it with your index finger where that dent is and go in an angle so that way I can see it, because they swore that it's not going to show up on the picture. So now I can't imagine those claim adjusters who's trying to make it work with limited resources or limited, in that kind of situation. It's frustrating, I'm sure.
yeah. Oh man, I've had them take pictures from in their apartment complex through a screen window before.
You can't be
Like
serious, Jack.
what? I'm not even kidding. I wish I was. I wish I was kidding. I am not even kidding. It was
Oh,
like a. I think it was like a Dodge Charger that basically needed a door. And I'm like, they contacted me about some dent repair, and they're like, yeah, I got a small dent or whatever. And I'm like, well, send me a few photos and stuff. And I'm like, really, you couldn't take a worst possible photo? You couldn't even step outside? I mean, literally like second floor of the apartment complex through the screen, so it's all fuzzy looking, and then you could just vaguely see that it was a Dodge Charger, and it obviously needed a door at least, if not probably part of the whole side painted. So
Oh
oh
my,
well.
oh my God. Oh, I have some customers that actually I have to educate them because and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to say bad things about women, but obviously women have less knowledge about cars, right? They don't know, some of them don't know what's the bumper part of their car or what's the panel or front fender or quarter panel or yeah, they can't. They said, "Oh, I have a damage on my bumper." Come to find out, it's the front fender. I'm like, it's not the bumper, it's the front fender. So now
mhm,
the estimate's gonna be higher because it's two different metals, right?
mhm,
Yep.
One is plastic and one is not. Or sometimes I'll ask questions. Well, which one is it? Oh, the metal bumper. I said, no, no, no. Most bumpers nowadays are plastics, unless it's rubber, right? Depending on what year and make and model of the car. So yeah, so they will, I mean, that's how I pick, from what they're saying, I pick up stuff right away and then I kind of correct it. So I try to eliminate, I know most of the people in the industry have gone to like send me pictures to give estimates. So that way, because there are other customers out there who doesn't want to stop by at the shop. I mean, we're busy, right? We work Monday to Friday. And then the weekends that you have off, you want to do stuff for yourself rather than being stuck at the body shop doing errands. So
Hmm.
usually I try to eliminate the going back and forth by giving them already a direction of what they need to do to eliminate extra steps for my
mhm, mhm.
customers to do. Yeah,
Hmm.
because they can get frustrated too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think we're moving on to I'm going back, making decisions because that particular stuff that I just mentioned, that's the decisions that I made to not only for me, so that way it's less headache for me to go back and forth with my customers, but also for the customers who can get frustrated just by going back and forth. Because as
Mhm,
much as I am busy, they
mhm,
are also busy too. So I think the message I'm sending here, it's really important to think through your decision or the choices we make. You know what I'm saying? Because the choices we make in life, or even the decisions we make in life, affect our future, whether it's business or personal life, correct?
mhm,
Hmm.
mhm,
Like
Yep.
with Maria made a choice that, what? I'm going to make this experience positive. You now have a positive outlook and your mindset is different now, right?
mhm. Yeah. It is. It is. You can't, I mean, anytime you go through any type of struggle, you're going to learn something. And just like what you're talking about taking pictures, you know what you get when you tell them, send me a picture. You know it's going to be a back and forth. So just give it to them how they should do it to begin with. I think that's very wise because most people, they've never had to think about anything like this. Most women buy a car because it looks good. They don't know the parts and pieces of a car. They just, and now they've got a dent on their beautiful car. They don't know how to, they've never done that before. As to where dent techs, exactly how to show where that dent looks at its worst. You know, but they've never had to even think about that. And anytime you're learning something new, you're just, you don't know what to do. You don't know at all.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, Mary. People are so busy, they just want one and done. I want to call this person and get it taken care of. Done. And go on to the next thing on their list. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you call them back and you've got to have them go back out there and take another picture, it just automatically puts them on a, I don't have time for this, you know? So I think it's great that you give them everything you can right up front. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even as a mom, I kind of coach my kids with that. I'm like, we're going to go here and you can expect XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what's going to happen here. And people will expect you to act XYZ in this scenario here. And we go and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is what's happening, XYZ, and I know how to act here." And they do
Mm-hmm.
it. And so people like feeling comfortable and like they've done the right thing. So I think it's good that you prepare them for that.
Yeah.
Just like,
So,
yeah. So I was
so
going to say, putting it back with my thing, once I've gone through this, and I teach the yoga class, I tell my students every day, I said, we inhale, the body rises up. We exhale, the body falls. But
Mhm.
then we inhale again. Life is full of ups and downs, and you just need to know that's what happens. That's life. There are ups and there are downs, but you know what? It swings back up. So just wait for it, wait for it. So I think that's one of the things I learned. And anytime you're talking with people or having an issue or, just prepare them for what's ahead. I think people like to know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I,
I
for
do.
one, likes to know.
Yeah, me too. And I
Yeah.
love that Jack's got all the books because I love to read books about personal development, business, and that sort of thing. And you can
Yeah.
learn a lot. And you don't even have to experience them yourself. You can just learn a lot from watching others, what goes well, what doesn't, from listening to others, like Jack found out through hail, dealing with hail technicians, not dealing, but working with them. You can request another adjuster. You can learn a lot through books like, hey, this is somebody's been through something and they're sharing their experience with me. And so I feel like a lot of my choices I make are based on the books I've read, the things I've seen, the things I've heard from others, and it all goes together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's me. On the other hand, I think I mentioned it to Jack before. I like to hang out with, I would say, what's considered senior citizens, like in their 70s or 80s,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I like to hang out with those, those age group, just
Uh-huh.
because they have a lot to share. They have a lot of wisdoms to share with me,
Yeah.
and I'm one of those person that's like very, very curious. I guess maybe since I was a little kid, I'm like, I question everything, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think in one of my podcasts I talked about I was questioning myself when I was 7 or no, no, actually 8 or 9 years old. What's my purpose here on earth? What's my purpose in life? Because I'm here for a reason, right? What am I supposed to do? So I'm a very, very inquisitive person. So I question everything, and hanging out and having conversations with those generation, like the people that are in their 80s or 90s, they have a lot to share. They've seen a lot. They've seen the
Yeah.
depression. They've seen what World War II, what Vietnam War, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like talking to them because they have a lot to share, and the fact that their hearts are always in a good place. They just want to help. They want to teach you, so that way you can like thrive being here, and they teach you life lessons. So those are the people that I like to have conversations. So, and I also like to place myself being in different age group, like I like to talk to the teenagers because I
Mm-hmm.
have teenagers, and I like to talk to people that are in my generation, and then I like to talk to people that are way older than me, because I can see, I kind of, close the gap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys heard long, long time ago, or maybe your parents would say stuff when you guys were little. I don't know about you generation, you guys, it's like you guys are hard to figure out, why do you do the things that you do, right? Like our parents talks like this to us, like my mom, even with my mom, I'm like, I don't understand my mom. Anyways, I don't know how long we're here. I think it's been a while now. Any listeners out there, I'm saying goodbye. And
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching or listening.